The Senate will come to order. Mr. Panetta, please call the roll.
Bridges. Buckner.
Present.
Coleman. Cook. Coram. Danielson.
Good morning.
Donovan. Finberg. Fields. Gardner. Gardner. Janal. Gonzalez. Hanson. Heisey. Heisey. Holbert. Hawkins Lewis. Kirkmeyer. Colker. Lee. Liston. Lundeen. Moreno. Pedersen. Priola.
Present.
Absent.
Present.
The good senator from Adams County will be recorded as absent. Members, as a reminder, you must follow the memo and the guidelines as prescribed. Mr. Panetta, please continue.
Rankin. Rodriguez. Scott.
Here.
Simpson. Smallwood.
Excused.
Sonnenberg. Story. Winter. Woodward. Zenzinger. Mr. President.
Here. With 33 present, 1 absent, and 1 excused, we have a quorum. Would the good senator from Adams County please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Correction, my apologies. Would the good senator from Alamosa?
Thank you, Mr. President. It's been my privilege to get us started with the pledge all this week. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the journal. Senator Buckner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the reading of the journal for Thursday, March 11th, 2021 be dispensed with and that the journal be approved as corrected by the Secretary.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes having the motion is adopted. Senate Services.
March 12th, correctly engrossed Senate Bills 96, 123, 145.
Committee reports.
March 11th, the Committee on Education has had it in consideration and has had a hearing on the following appointments and recommends that the appointments be placed on the consent calendar and confirm members of the Board of Trustees for Fort Lewis College effective September 1st, 2020 for a term expiring January 1st, 2023. Christopher Adam Red of Ignacio, Colorado, Republican, appointed effective September 1st, 2020 for a term expiring January 1st, 2025. Mary Brugado of Durango, Colorado, a Democrat, appointed effective December 31st, 2020 for terms expiring December 31st, 2024. Ernest Domingo House Jr. of Aurora, Colorado, to serve as a non-affiliated reappointed. Richard C. Coppin of Centennial, Colorado, to serve as a Democrat reappointed. Julia Levy Duval of Centennial, Colorado, to serve as a Democrat appointed. March 11th, Committee on Education. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bills 106 be amended as follows. So amended, be referred to Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation. March 11th, Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 34 be postponed indefinitely. March 11th, Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 105 be postponed indefinitely. March 11th, Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 136 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations. March 11th, Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 12 be amended as follows. So amended, be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. March 11th, Committee on Judiciary. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 21088 be amended as follows. So amended, be referred to the Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation. March 11th, Committee on Judiciary. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 71 be amended as follows. So amended, be referred to the Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation.
Third reading of bills. Consent. Will the clerk please read the two bills listed on the consent calendar?
Senate Bill 145 by Senator Simpson and Representative Valdez D. concerning the extension of the period of the voluntary contributions that are set to expire in 2020 will appear on the state individual tax return form. Senate Bill 96 by Senators Coker and Piola and Representative Byrd concerning the continuation of the Workers' Compensation Classification Appeals Board and in connection therewith implementing recommendations contained in the 2020 Sunset Report by the Department of Regulatory Agencies.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the passage of all the bills on the third reading of bills consent calendar, which includes Senate Bill 145 and Senate Bill 96.
Is there any discussion on any of the bills listed on the consent calendar? Seeing none, are there any no votes on any of the bills listed on the consent calendar? With a vote of 33 ayes, 0 noes, 1 absent, and 1 excused, Senate Bill 145 is passed. Co-sponsors. With a vote of 33 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 33 ayes, 0 noes, 1 absent, and 1 excused, Senate Bill 096 is passed. Co-sponsors. Third reading of bills, final passage. Mr. Panetta, will you please read the title to Senate Bill 123?
Senate Bill 123 by Senators Denal and Quorum and Representative McCormick concerning expanding the Canadian prescription drug importation program to include prescription drug suppliers from nations other than Canada upon the enactment of legislation by the United States Congress authorizing such practice.
Senator Janal.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Bill 123 on third reading and final passage.
Is there any discussion? Senator Quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, or Mr. President. I apologize. Used part of my $4. I asked for a aye vote on this. I did send a text to my caucus yesterday asking for if I could have the proxy of the good senator from Wheat Ridge, who is not there. I did not get a response. Very disappointed.
Senator Lundin.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I did not speak to this bill on seconds, but I just want to make a footnote. I consider this bill essentially to be a placebo. It's not actually meaningful medication. What we have is an extension of a bill that was passed that I argued vigorously against in previous legislative sessions, thinking it misguided. I think that particular bill has done nothing to this point. And yet, we are now expanding and extending. So you've already heard probably the best argument I can make, and that is this bill simply is inert, a sugar pill, a placebo, something that probably doesn't get us anything good. And I will not go back into all of the reasons why I oppose the underlying and original legislation, but this expansion of the bill, of the legislation, is, in my opinion, misguided. Thank you, Mr. President.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of Senate Bill 123 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Mr. Minority Leader, Senators Cook, Lundin, Gardner, Rankin, Sonnenberg. With a vote of 27 ayes, 6 no votes, 1 absent, and 1 excused, Senate Bill 123 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Colker, Story, Buckner, Danielson, Gonzalez, Hawkes Lewis, Fields, Pedersen, Winter. Please add the president. General order, second reading of bills. Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of general orders, second reading of bills.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor. You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Committee of the Whole. The committee will go into seconds on Committee of the Whole to consider general order second reading of bills.
The committee will come to order. Mr. Panetta, will you please read the title of Senate Bill 84?
Senate Bill 84 by Senator Smallwood and Representative Gray concerning the authority of local governments to prohibit the operation of motor vehicles upon roughed-in roads when necessary for the protection of the public.
The committee will be in a senatorial 5. The committee will return to order. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have been moving way too fast this morning. We need to slow things down. And I think we have done plenty of work in this committee of the whole, and we should call it a week. And I move Senate Bill 84 lay over until Monday, March 15th.
The motion is to lay over Senate Bill 84 until Monday, March 15th. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bill will be laid over. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the committee rise and report, and that we discuss this very lengthy report of the committee of the whole.
The motion is for the committee to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. No. The indecisive aye has it, and the committee will rise and report.
The Senate will come to order. Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has met. Mr. Panetta, will you please read the report?
March 12th, Mr. President, your committee of the whole begs leave to report has had under consideration the following attached bills being the second reading thereof and makes the following recommendations therein. Senate Bill 84 laid over until 3/15/2021 and retaining its place in the calendar.
Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the report.
Motion is for the adoption of the committee of the whole report. Are there any no votes? Senators Gonzalez, Donovan, Rodriguez, with 30 aye votes, 0 no votes, 1 absent, and 1 excused. Committee of the whole report is adopted. Senate Bill 084 laid over until 3/15/21 and retaining its place on the calendar. Committee reports.
March 12th, Committee on Appropriations, after consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 6 be referred to the committee of the whole with favorable recommendation. March 12th, Committee on Appropriations, after consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 21 be amended as follows, and so amended be referred to the committee of the whole with favorable recommendation and with the recommendation that be placed on the consent calendar. March 12th, Committee on Appropriations, after consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 56 be amended as follows, so amended be referred to the committee of the whole with favorable recommendation. March 12th, Committee on Appropriation, after consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 58 be amended as follows, so amended be referred to the committee of the whole with favorable recommendation. March 12th, Committee on Appropriations, after consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 100 be referred to the committee of the whole with favorable recommendation, with recommendation to be placed on the consent calendar. March 12th, Committee on Appropriations, after consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 104 be referred to the committee of the whole with favorable recommendation, with recommendation to be placed on the consent calendar. March 12th, Committee on Appropriations, after consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 115 be amended as follows, and as so amended be referred to the committee of the whole with favorable recommendation, with recommendation to be placed on the consent calendar. March 12th, Committee on Appropriations, after consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1161 be referred to the committee of the whole with favorable recommendation.
The Senate will stand in a recess.
Real business?
Real.
Tuesday morning.
Oh.
The Senate will come to order. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. We are on a roll this morning, so let's keep it going. I move that the Senate take up Senate Bills 97, 102, 122, 93, 92, 21, 104, 115, on special orders consent calendar at the hour of 9:47 a.m.
The motion is that the Senate take up the following bills listed on special order second reading bills consent calendar, which include Senate Bill 097, 102, 122, 093, 092, 021, 104, and 115 at the hour of 0947. This requires a two-thirds majority vote. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Senate will take up those bills listed on the consent calendar, special orders, at the hour of 0947. Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of special orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. The Senate resolve itself to the Committee of the Whole for consideration of special orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar, and Senator Moreno will take the chair.
The committee will come to order. Mr. Panetta, will you please read the title to all the bills on the special order second reading of bills consent calendar?
Senate Bill 97 by Senators Garcia and Smallwood concerning the continuation of the Michael Skolnick Medical Transparency Act of 2010 and in connection therewith implementing the recommendation contained in the 2020 Census Report by the Department of Regulatory Agencies. Senate Bill 102 by Senators Buckner and Simpson concerning the continuation of specific dental hygienist functions and in connection therewith implementing the recommendations contained in the 2020 Census Report by the Department of Regulatory Agencies. Senate Bill 122 by Senators Janal and Representative Froelich concerning the bulk purchase of opiate antagonists pursuant to a standing order. Senate Bill 93 by Senator Bridges concerning the continuation of healthcare-associated infections and antimicrobial resistance advisory committee and in connection therewith implementing the recommendations of the 2020 Census Report by the Department of Regulatory Agencies. Senate Bill 92 by Senators Coker and Simpson concerning the continuation of the regulation of persons to assist surgeons and in connection therewith implementing the recommendations contained in the 2020 Sunset Report by the Department of Regulatory Agencies. Senate Bill 21 by Senators Buckner and Heisey and Representatives Young and Carver concerning the enactment of audiology and speech and language pathology interstate compact. Senate Bill 104 by Senator Zenzinger concerning the continuation of the Special Education Fiscal Advisory Committee and in connection therewith implementing the recommendation contained in the 2020 Sunset Report by the Department of Regulatory Agencies. Senate Bill 115 by Senators Zenzinger and Lundin and Representative Titone and Larson concerning the use of money in the Colorado Telephone Users with Disabilities Fund to support talking book library services for certain persons with disabilities.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move for the adoption of all the bills on the consent calendar and their associated committee reports, which includes Senate Bills 97, 102, 122, 93, 92, along with the Health and Human Services Committee report, 21, along with the Appropriations Committee report, 104, along with the Education Committee report, and Senate Bill 115, along with both the Finance Committee report and the Appropriations Committee report.
Is there any discussion on any of the bills? Is there any discussion on any of the committee reports to any of the bills on the special order second reading of bills consent calendar? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of all the committee reports to all of the bills on the special order second reading of bills consent calendar. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the committee reports are adopted. Is there any discussion on any of the bills on the special order second reading of bills consent calendar? Seeing none, the question before the body is the adoption of all the bills on the special order second reading of bills consent calendar. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bills are adopted. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
The motion is to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the committee will rise and report.
The Senate will come to order. Mr. Panetta, please add Senator Priola to the roll call. Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has met and had a number of bills under consideration. Mr. Panetta, will you please read the report?
Mr. President, your committee of the whole begs leave to report as had in consideration the following attached bills being the second reading thereof and makes the following recommendations thereon. Senate Bill 97, 102, 122, 193, 92 as amended, 21 as amended, 104 as amended, 115 as amended, passed on second reading and ordered engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage.
Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the report.
The motion is the adoption of the committee of the whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 1 excused, the committee of the whole report is adopted. Senate Bill 097, Senate Bill 102, Senate Bill 122, Senate Bill 093, Senate Bill 092 as amended, Senate Bill 1021 as amended, Senate Bill 104 as amended, Senate Bill 115 as amended, passed on second reading, ordered engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage.
I got to do it.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate take up House Bill 1161, Senate Bills 658 and 100 on special orders, second reading of bills at the hour of 9:54 a.m. Around there.
The motion is that the Senate take up under special order second reading of bills the following bills: House Bill 1161, Senate Bill 006, Senate Bill 058, and Senate Bill 100. This requires a 2/3 majority vote at the hour of 09:54. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted, and the Senate will take up those special order second reading of bills at that hour. Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of special order second reading of bills.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. The Senate will resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of special order second reading of bills, and Senator Moreno will take the chair.
The committee will come to order. Mr. Panetta, will you please read the title to House Bill 1161?
House Bill 1161 by Representatives Sirota and McClellan and Senators Zenzinger and Quorum concerning suspending required statewide assessment selected grade levels for the year 2020-21 school year and in connection therewith reducing an appropriation.
Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1161.
To the bill.
Mr. Chair, members, and to all of the parents and students who have been following this legislation in the hopes that we could find a solution that we can literally live with, I wish to report to you that our work and negotiation has brought us to the right space for this request. And this is what this bill is, at its heart, a request. The core of this bill is a request for a waiver from certain rules of the Federal Department of Education that we find to be unworkable for the reality of this year. In Colorado, we use the Colorado Measures of Academic Success, also known as CMAS, as our tool to meet the federal government mandates for accountability and assessment. Unfortunately, that tool was never intended for the reality of education in a pandemic. It cannot be used remotely, for example. It requires students to gather in a building at the same time in the same space. The devices that students use, the ThinkPads, Chromebooks, iPads, laptops, and other technology, must be rounded up, scrubbed, updated, loaded with the testing software, and kept in the school's custody for the duration of the test. and no other instruction can happen throughout this period. In a normal year, this is not a problem. In a pandemic year, where students are still learning remotely or in a hybrid situation, these practices pose severe challenges. Now, the federal government recognizes that this year is a special case, and it issued guidance to states that permits a process for requesting waivers. The Colorado Department of Education will only request a waiver upon our direction. So we need to pass this bill today to give them the green light. There is an urgency to do this because we are already drifting past the timeline for schools to prepare. Districts across Colorado are waiting to see what action we take today before proceeding with assessments this spring. So our action today is crucial. There are two halves to this bill. The first half is about accountability. Now, this aspect of the bill was the easiest on which to reach agreement by both the governor and the diverse stakeholders that agreed that this part urgently needs to get done. Colorado already decided that tests were not useful this year in comparing district performance. How any given classroom stumbled through online, offline confusion of this year really tells us nothing about the apples to apples longitudinal comparison to how teachers performed the year before last or 2 years from now. This is also an area where the federal government reinforced our view. They invited setting this invalid data aside for that purpose. And the low participation rate, uneven and untimely data that this tool provides muddies the water, and it makes accountability more difficult. In this way, Colorado agrees with the federal guidance, and we wish to request their offered flexibility. The second half of this bill concerns assessment. Now, the assessment component of this bill is largely what drove the debate here in Colorado. This is where we differed. First, let's start with what I believe we broadly agree among all stakeholders, that assessment is important. On the local level, we administer several nationally normed, state standard aligned assessments, such as NWEA MAPS assessments, Access assessments, READ assessments, PSAT assessments, SAT assessments, iReady assessments, Scantron assessments, Ames Web assessments, STAR assessments. And there are more. The Colorado Association of School Executives surveyed our districts and found that 95% of districts that responded, 95%, are already using at least one of the top 5 nationally normed local assessments, each of which fit the federal requirements. 76% already use, in particular, NWEA and MAPS assessments that tracks closest to CMAS. Now, we are already collecting and analyzing good data that is timely and comprehensive on a local level. Now, whereas I believe that we can use that solid data to meet every federal requirement, this is where views begin to differ. House Bill 1125, which was postponed indefinitely last week, proposed this local approach. But the governor's office and the attorney general and the Colorado Department of Education were not so sure that the federal government would agree. They felt that our best opportunity for a waiver from the suggested accountability measures, which is the first half of that bill, needed to include the statewide assessment tool of CMAS. And that however dangerous or impractical the administration of this test would be, we needed to, in some limited way, include it as part of our waiver request. So like Texas, West Virginia, New York, New Jersey, Tennessee, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Michigan, Oregon, Delaware, Georgia, and North Carolina, Colorado joins this growing list of states that have already requested permission to lift the federal requirements into the reality on the ground. We set that bill aside to introduce this bill that is before us today, House Bill 1161. And we believe that this bill provides what the federal government requests and follows the most modest path of getting there, including a limited but significant role for CMAS. Now, it represents a significant compromise, and this plan was endorsed in committee by organizations ranging across the full spectrum of our education stakeholders. The strongest advocates of assessments came to the table and agreed that this bill preserved and provided the data we need, while simultaneously protecting the health of our students. So let me be clear, Colorado will not cease with CMAS testing. The assessments will still take place, just like every other quote-unquote normal year. Nevertheless, it recognizes that this is not a normal year, and it also incorporates the approved flexibility measures suggested by the Department of Education. The support for this bill not only bridged theoretical divides on education reform, but garnered resolutions of support from districts across the state. From Garfield in Rifle to Pueblo, from Cherry Creek to Aspen, board after board passed resolutions of support. The Colorado Rural Alliance, Colorado Succeeds, Colorado BOCES, CEA, AFT, CASE, CASB, the entire alphabet soup. Now, I encourage you to read those resolutions, as well as those from Adams 12, Westminster, Poudre, Englewood, Mapleton, Thompson, St. Vrain, and others, to see how unified the schools in your districts are on the argument of the importance of this request. The compromise plan before you today includes everything required under the federal guidelines, while stripping from our routine procedures as much as we could for as many students as we could if it was agreed to be appropriate or unworkable in this year. For students 9th grade and above, and for students of 2nd grade and below, there is much more robust data that we are already collecting, reporting, and putting into action. In a good year, CMAS assessments don't report back until August. This year, perhaps we can still make it available by September. And for members that do not work closely in the schools, let me share that that is not enough time to inform next year's plans. But nevertheless, we will be administering CMAS for grades 3 through 8 to better calibrate the statewide impact of this year. The federal guidance said, go ahead and make the test shorter. But that's not possible with our CMAS assessment. So what we can do is offer fewer tests. Normally, there are 4 assessments: mathematics, social studies, English, language arts, and science. We have narrowed it to 2, math and English, that we most look to for year-to-year student growth. Then we stagger it: 3rd grade ELA, 4th grade math, 5th grade ELA, and so on, so that no student needs a 10-day window for more than 1 test. And no student has a gap of more than a year of assessment on one of these key subjects. Also, we've created an option for parents to opt their child into the assessment that is not offered. With limited CMAS testing supplemented by our remote array of alternative tools, we believe that we have a basis for a justifiable and reasonable waiver from the federal rules. This is the bill that the Attorney General, Office of the Governor, State Board of Education, the Colorado Department of Education believe is in the best interest of Colorado, and I ask that this legislative body support 1161 as well.
Senator Quorum.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. It's great to carry this very important piece of legislation with the good senator from Westminster, I believe?
Arvada.
Arvada. She keeps moving on me. I don't know what I'm going to do with her. You know, you'd have thought she got a better education in Montrose High School, but maybe not. But the story is, I've had a lot of conversation, a lot of outreach on this, and I'm very thrilled with all the organizations that are in support of this bill. But the one that carries the most weight, and I'm not talking about myself here, I've actually lost 20 pounds, is the parents. Parents have been reaching out to me saying, I want my child educated. This testing program is going to cost too much instructional time. I want my children educated. And that is what carries the weight with me on this bill. I think of all the conversations I had one that had some concerns, says we need to do testing. I agree, we need to do testing. But we're also doing other testing. And this bill is the results come in late. So let's do it. Let's do the testing as described, but rely on the other testing and keep our kids with an instructor in front of them rather than someone monitoring a test. Ask for an aye vote.
Senator Rankin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I actually opposed this bill, but for a very, very specific reason. And that's because it does not include fourth grade English language arts testing. Now, I'm not going to offer an amendment just, in the spirit of the hard work that went into the compromise, which I think we all really appreciate. And also, we have a history here of working together, bipartisan, to support K-12 education. So, understanding those things, I won't offer, but I honestly do believe this was an important, overlooked issue. And here's the reason why. In 2012, we put into law that the state would implement or teach the 5 pillars of reading, scientific approach to reading. In 2019, we unanimously, every person in the House and Senate voted to update that law and add accountability. That test, the fourth language English arts test, the fourth grade, is the primary measure of how well we're doing. The intent here was to move more of our kids to being able to read at grade level at third grade. Less than 40% of our children read. It's the primary marker for future success in life. Primary. Since that time, 2019, I have good news to report, actually. Colorado is now ranked in the top 6 states in several studies and grant programs in implementing the science of reading. Our department, CDE, has put in place a training program online. 10,000 of our teachers have signed up for that. It's the momentum that we put onto that bill in 2019 is working. It's working. I've been told, by the way, that you can predict prison population by third grade reading levels. I don't know if we'll all be around long enough to find that out. How will we know from the JBC motto? But, we know that it's so important. We know the evidence is there. That test should have been in this. It should have been in this marker. I think it was an oversight. Now, we'll say State Board of Education, it was not unanimous voting for this, so it was discussed. I really do think it was an oversight. I hope we can compensate for it in some way because we got so much momentum going around reading. But thank you for your work on the bill, and I'll vote no just in protest for that one specific issue.
Unless I convince you otherwise.
Unless you're convinced.
Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you. I do not disagree with anything that the good senator from Carbondale has just shared with us, but I will speak to it in 3 parts. Number 1, this was the recommendation of the reading specialists. This is what they wanted. They wanted the test administered in third grade because they wanted to be able to track that third grade language test over time, and they were disappointed that we didn't have the results from last year because all assessments were waived last year. So number 1, it was per their request. Number 2, you can still do it. So the reading test is still being offered for fourth grade for parents that want to opt their children in. So it's still there. And number 3, I think it's really important to remember that this is longitudinal data. The data that actually tracks the day-to-day reading progress of students, which is the READ test, is still being administered. And that is the test that is actually used to adjust instruction on the ground that follows the student when we create the READ plans. So I don't deny that the work that we did in this body and the importance of reading overall, but we've got you covered.
Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, House Bill 1161 is not a perfect bill. Mr. Chair, 2021 is anything but a perfect year. I want to thank the good senator from Arvada and the good senator from Montrose, everyone who supports House Bill 1161. I am, and ask that you vote for this bill. If there's two things I would recommend to a new member of the General Assembly, beware, don't touch that topic. Those two things would be beer and assessments. I've done both. In 2015, Senator Andy Kerr and I stood here in the well as we brought an assessment bill across the line. There were several assessment bills that year. I had one for opt-out. The current governor brought two former governors in to have a press conference just to rail against my opt-out bill. And that bill passed here with the majority leader and the minority leader, Senator Sheffel and Carroll, as co-sponsors. It died in the House. Assessments are a tough discussion. Those of you who might have been here when Senate Bill 191 passed years ago to really establish teacher accountability in the state, you know lessons that I was not here to experience myself. But today, years later, we have a governor who actually supported 191, I believe. I don't want to speak for the governor, but I think he was on the State Board of Education at that time. In my conversations with the governor, he is not interested in scrapping Senate Bill 191. He's not interested in scrapping teacher accountability. So I don't see that in 1161. I also don't see that in the lobby. Thinking back to that hardest bill I ever worked on, assessments with Senator Kerr, the lobby was so engaged at that time. Things were turned upside down, and groups that ordinarily are aligned more with my votes were against the bill, and groups that were ordinarily aligned against my votes were for the bill. And that experience, I didn't come up here to talk about my bill in 2015, but I want to relate my experience. This is one of the two toughest topics I've ever tackled in my years in the legislature. Given COVID, given the challenges of our schools over the past year, I think 1161 is as close as we can get. And I agree with the senator from Arvada. This meets the federal criteria. I wish it addressed fourth grade reading as the good senator from Carbondale addressed, but it doesn't. It isn't perfect. But members, I'm asking you to please join me in supporting and voting for 1161. We've got to get this across the finish line. We've got to get the governor's signature on this bill so that CDE can begin the federal waiver process. Teachers, administrators, students, parents, all of the people involved in our public K-12 system are waiting for the answer from the federal government on that waiver. And until we have it, we don't know what we're going to do this year. So I think it's incumbent on us. You don't have to vote yes, but I encourage you, please vote yes. Let's get this done. Glad that it's on special orders today so that we might get it to the governor a little bit sooner. Senator from Arvada, Senator from Montrose, thank you for bringing this bill and tackling this very tough subject. As we saw in 2015, other bills have died. This one needs to pass. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Lundeen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. A little bit of context, legislative context and education policy context. A bill was presented at the beginning of this session by the same sponsors, both chambers, House and Senate, 1125. That was dead wrong. It was a bill that said, just stop the test, do away with the test. We do not need, in this challenging time, to have a statewide test. Wrong proposition, wrong reason. And here's why. We have 178 school districts in this beautiful state, each of which has an enormous degree of autonomy, an enormous degree of self-control. That's the way it should be. And they each measure, test, they assess what's going on with their students in their various classrooms. The challenge is, as they do that district by district, one district uses a measuring cup to test, to assess, to understand how their students are doing. Another uses a ruler that's denominated in inches to test, to assess, to understand how their students are doing. Another uses a ruler that's denominated in centimeters. Another uses a scale to weigh and see, are our students making progress? Are they gaining weight? Are they doing what we want them to do or not? What the statewide test does, is it says we're all going to use a yardstick. we're all going to understand how the students across the state of Colorado, not just in this district or that district or the other district, are doing. 1125 would have pulled that yardstick away. It would have said, go back to measuring with your measuring cup or your scale or your ruler denominated in centimeters, if that's what you prefer to do. 1161, however, does not do that. It restores a lighter. It's not made out of the same heavy weighted metal or wood, but at least it's a yardstick upon which we can measure how are all the students of Colorado doing. So 1161 moves in an appropriate way in that direction to make sure we are understanding. And it is, and it has the benefit of being compliant with the federal law that said, you shall test statewide, but we'll let you have some flexibility because this is a crazy year. This is difficult for all of us. 1161 seeks to take advantage of the freedom in how you go about it, and at the same time preserve the what you are doing, which is a statewide test, so we know how each student in the state is doing. The senator from Carbondale is absolutely correct. There is nothing more important than the K-3 reading gateway, and the fourth grade test in reading is important. It would be more elegant, in my opinion, if this bill were testing statewide with regard to reading. But there are other tests that are statewide, the read test in third and fourth, that help get us at that information. And there is an elegance in the 8th grade statewide math test, because 8th grade math, that's kind of a critical threshold as you're moving on in your mathematics academic career, that is valuable and important. I would prefer, quite frankly, that we were taking a statewide test through the CMAS in 4th grade, but I understand the legislative complexity of trying to do that at this moment. My ask of you all is support of this bill because it does preserve that statewide yardstick, that statewide measure. How are all the students across the state doing? And I would urge you all to get on your soapbox when you go back to your district and encourage the parents in your district. You have the option, parents, you can say to them, under this Bill 161, at no charge to yourself, at greater understanding for yourself and for your child, to take both the English language and the math in each of the years. You don't have to do the English language 357 and math 468 only. You as a parent can ask that your child be assessed in both of those. And yes, the test does come back months later. But you know what? That child still has years of academic future ahead of them, and understanding where they are at is important. So I would encourage each of you, encourage the parents of your district to ask the folks in their school district to test, to assess their child on both reading and math as they move through this. So that's an ask I would make of you. I appreciate so very much. You know, we all start the session, or before we start the session, on all these panels where we're discussing what's coming up, what's going to be happening. I will tell you, Senator Zenzinger and I were A and Z on this question of assessment. I was saying we must test. She was saying, testing's untenable. It's too much. We can't do it. This bill finds its way to the best of both worlds, I believe. Thanks for the hard work the senator from Arvada has done. Thanks to the hard work the senator from Montrose has done to get this bill in a good spot. I will be a yes vote on 1161 and encourage you to do the same. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Lundin, it appears that instead of A and Z, perhaps you're L and Z. Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to make a quick point. And this is in response to the discussion we're having around the fourth grade reading. Just to be clear, yes, we care about how the fourth graders are doing, but what is more important when it comes to CMAS is how the third graders did. Because the third grade language arts test results do not come out until August, and the fourth grade teachers then use those third grade results in order to drive instruction for fourth grade if they were not meeting the standard. So that's why it is constructed the way that it is. Fifth grade teachers care a lot less where the fourth grade students were with regard to English language arts. Because again, this is CMAS, so we don't get these results until later when the students have already moved on to their next grade level. So fifth grade teachers care more about where the fourth graders were mathematically than they do where they were language arts when it comes to the statewide assessment. Now, let me just be clear. I think only about 6% of teachers actually reported that they use CMAS to drive instruction at all. And I'm not even Italian. What they use them for is more statewide performance measures. They use it for school and district level goal setting. So when it comes to that really critical component of reading, CMAS is not exactly the measuring stick in which the fourth grade teachers or even the fifth grade teachers or the sixth grade teachers are necessarily looking to in order to make sure that when they start with their students that they get them to where they need to be. So again, I hope that that explanation as to the ordering of this compromise makes a little bit more sense, just given the limitations of a statewide yearly standardized assessment.
Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise in support of this bill as a compromise and wish we had been able to offer more relief, but this is a good bill as where it stands right now. I know many people in this chamber haven't had to do remote learning. Some people have over the course of this year. Right now, there is a fourth grader and a second grader from Adams 12 in my office doing their asynchronous learning as we have this debate. And I'm not there to actually supervise this remote learning. I don't know how well it's going. There might be tears, as there is many days. There might be frustration. When I checked on them during our senatorial 5, the fourth grader was teaching the second grader about the Sand Creek Massacre, and the second grader was teaching the fourth grader about tornadoes, and all was going well. And this year, being a parent, working a full-time job, being a senator, and managing remote learning while trying to be a partner with my children's educators was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. The teachers worked longer, harder hours, did more outreach, more communication, more listening than in any other experience I've had with my children in the K-12 system. I worked harder this year as a parent, keeping up with their education than I ever have in the K-12 system. And my children worked harder, both emotionally, mentally, and intellectually. And we held things together by strings. All of us in this equation. And any relief we can do, because I know exactly where my children's learning is. And a test is not going to show you what they went through this year. The test is not going to show you the resiliency they learned. The test is not going to show you how hard the teachers work to be creative and involve people through a computer screen. And any relief we can offer is exceptionally important. And this bill is important because once we're done with this debate, I actually have to go check on that remote learning so that they can perform on a test that tells us where they are.
Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, in the art of legislating, I started with the so. Thanks for that, Senator. In the art of legislating, generally speaking, when folks across the spectrum aren't super happy with what the end result is, but they're okay with it, generally speaking, that is the job that we do here in this body more often than not. And this bill has had so many people working so hard. There has been, I don't think there was blood, I think it was close to blood, but there has been sweat and tears put into this bill by folks on all sides. We know education is not just a two-sided issue. There are all sorts of different dimensions when we look at K-12 public education. And the work that was done by the sponsors of this bill, by the incredible chair of the Education Committee who's done an amazing job finding a path forward on this, I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to all the people that engaged in this conversation, that found that solution, that had those conversations. This bill is not anyone's ideal. This bill is exactly what Colorado needs this year. Thank you.
Is there further discussion on House Bill 1161? See none, the question before the body is the adoption of House Bill 1161. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bill is adopted. Mr. Panetta, will you please read the title of Senate Bill 6?
Senate Bill 6 by Senator Rodriguez and Representative Soper and Tatel concerning the conversion of human remains to basic elements within a container using an accelerated process and in connection there with making an appropriation.
Senator Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have an amendment for this bill. I move the bill.
Senator Rodriguez, if you would move the bill, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 6.
There is an amendment on the desk. Mr. Panetta, will you please read Amendment L001?
Amendment L001.
Senator Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. L001 is a stakeholdering meeting that happened after the bill got through consent in the committee with the Funeral Directors Association, about 300 days storage to reduce it to 180 to match standards across the board for the funeral operation. So it's a pretty simple amendment change, and it was met with bipartisan support. So I move Amendment L001.
L001 has been moved. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L001. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the amendment is adopted. Senator Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 006.
Is there further discussion on Senate Bill 6? Seeing none, the question before the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 6. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and Senate Bill 6 is adopted. Mr. Panetta, will you please read the title of the Senate Bill 58?
Senate Bill 58 by Senator Story and Quorum and Representative Woodrow and Larson concerning alternative principal programs.
Senator Quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And we move Senate Bill 58 and the Appropriations Committee report.
And the Education
And the Education Committee.
To the Appropriations Committee report.
Go ahead.
Or, sorry, to the Education Committee report. Senator Story.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I moved the Education Committee report, and we basically made some adjustments on a technical basis to just make it more accurate. Thank you.
Is there further discussion on the Education Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Education Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Education Committee report is adopted. To the Appropriations Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the Appropriation Committee report, there was a change from using general funds to cash funds.
Is there further discussion on the Appropriations Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Appropriations Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Appropriations Committee report is adopted. To Senate Bill 58, is there further discussion? Senator Story.
It's a great bill. Vote yes, and it basically is codifying into law a process that's been in place for a decade or longer.
Seeing no further discussion on Senate Bill 58, the question before the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 58. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bill is adopted. Mr. Panetta, will you please read the title of Senate Bill 100?
Senate Bill 100 by Senators Buckner, concerning the continuation of the Council of Higher Education Representatives and in connection therewith implementing recommendation contained in 2020 Sunset Report by the Department of Regulatory Agencies.
Senator Buckner.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Amendment L002 and offer it to the Committee Education Report and ask for an aye vote.
Senator Buckner, will you please move Senate Bill 100 and the Education Committee report?
Yes, I move Senate Bill 100 and the Education Report.
To the Education Committee report, Senator Buckner.
Yes, during the Education Committee, there was a very tiny technical change from the word schedule to scheduled. And this was brought by my friend and colleague, Senator Priola. And it's a very simple change, and I'm asking for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion on the Education Committee report? Seeing none, the question before the body is the adoption of the Education Committee report. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no.
Aye.
The ayes have it, and the committee report is adopted. There is an amendment on the desk. Mr. Panetta, will you please read Amendment L002?
Amendment L002 to Senate Bill 100. Amend Committee on
Senator Priola.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move L002 to Senate Bill 100.
To the amendment, Senator Priola.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, this is a technical amendment to the bill. The education report, we adopted a sunset, and we messed up the word schedule versus scheduled. So it's a two-line amendment. Ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion on the on Amendment L002? Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it is well past time that we adopt this amendment. I ask for your aye vote.
PAST or PASSED, Senator Donovan?
I'm uncomfortable with that question.
Is there further discussion on L002? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of L002. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? The ayes have it, and the amendment is adopted. Is there further discussion on Senate Bill 100? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 100. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed,
Aye.
no? The ayes have it, and Senate Bill 100 is adopted. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
Motion is for the committee to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no? Muted ayes have it, and the committee will rise and report.
The Senate will come to order. Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your committee has met and had a number of bills under consideration. Mr. Panetta, will you please read the report?
Mr. President, your committee of the whole begs leave to report has had in consideration the following tax bills being the second reading thereof and makes the following recommendations thereon. Senate Bill 6 as amended, Senate Bill 58 as amended, Senate Bill 100 as amended, passed on second reading in order and engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1161 passed on second reading in order, revised and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage.
Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the report.
The motion is for the adoption of the committee of the whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 1 excused, the committee of the whole report is adopted. Senate Bill 006 is amended. Senate Bill 058 is amended. Senate Bill 100 as amended, passed on second reading, ordered engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1161 passed on second reading, ordered revised and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Having voted on the prevailing side, I move for the reconsideration of Senate Bill 145.
The motion is for the reconsideration of Senate Bill 145. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no.
That's fair.
The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. Reconsideration is for the good senator from Adams County granted. Senator Priol.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to apologize to the members for my hiccup this morning and taking time out of your Friday. Thanks for reconsidering.
Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 145?
Senate Bill 145 by Senators Simpson and Representative Valdez D. concerning the extension of the period of time that voluntary contributions that are set to expire in 2021 will require in the state individual tax return form.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Bill 145 on third reading and final passage.
The motion before the body is the passage of Senate Bill 145 on third reading and final passage. Is there any discussion? Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a procedural note for everyone. We had some laughs on second reading. I hope that all of us are paying attention because we are reconsidering this, and if we have to do it again, then we would have to have 100% agreement, and that's a precarious place to be. Thank you, Mr. President.
The motion before the body is the passage of Senate Bill 145 on third reading and final passage. Having no further discussion, are there any no votes? With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, Senate Bill 145 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senator Priola. Heisey. Winter. Moreno. Lee. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I haven't voted on the prevailing side. I move for the immediate reconsideration of Senate Bill 96.
The motion is for the reconsideration of Senate Bill 096. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. Permission is granted, and that motion is adopted. Mr. Panetta, will you please read the title to Senate Bill 096?
Senate Bill 096 by Senators Colker and Priola and Representative Burdick concerning the continuation of the Workers' Compensation Classification Appeals Board and in connection therewith implementing recommendations contained in the 2020 Sunset Report by the Department of Regulatory Agencies.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Bill 96 on third reading and final passage and ask for a no vote. Vote your conscience.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of Senate Bill 096 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, Senate Bill 096 is passed. Co-sponsors. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Having voted on the prevailing side, I move for the immediate reconsideration of Senate Bill 123.
The motion is for the reconsideration of Senate Bill 123. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have, and reconsideration is, that motion is adopted and reconsideration is granted. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 123?
Senate Bill 123 by Senators Denal and Corman, Representative McCormick concerning expanding the Canadian prescription drug importation program to include prescription drug supplies from nations other than Canada upon the enactment of legislation by the United States Congress authorizing such practice.
Is there any discussion? Senator Lundin. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Bill 123 on third reading and final passage.
Is there any discussion? Senator Lundin.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. So, colleagues, as you recall, I called this a placebo bill earlier, and I assured you that I would not take the time for the extensive comments and objection to the bill that I brought to the previous and underlying bill to this. Since we're reconsidering, I thought I should sit here and perhaps reconsider my conclusion that I would not share with you my extensive comments. But as I reconsider that idea, I've decided I, in fact, will not share with you my extensive comments in objection to this bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Quorum.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill was, the good senator who just spoke called this a placebo. At least it's not a poison pill.
Having no further discussion, the motion before the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 123 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senators Sonnenberg, Gardner, Cook, Rankin, Lundin. Please add the minority leader. The minority leader will be recorded as a no vote. No votes. Senate Bill 123. With a vote of 28 ayes, 6 no votes, 0 absent, and 1 excuse, Senate Bill 123 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Priola, Lee. Please add the president. Please add Senator Fields. Announcements. Senator Lundin.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Having conferred with the minority leader and the majority leader that it is appropriate for me to go visit the dentist on Tuesday morning, I wanted to announce to the body that I may be late, so you may get more work done, quite frankly, on Tuesday morning in my absence. And I wanted to let the President know and to ask his permission to be absent at least temporarily on Tuesday morning. I'm requesting permission to be excused for at least an hour or two Tuesday morning, Mr. President.
The good senator will be excused for the time that he requested on Tuesday. Senator Lundin.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. On a slightly more serious matter, I request a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Colleagues, I think we found ourselves in a situation where we have an interesting disconnect between federal lawmakers and state lawmakers. The President of the United States has signed a $1.9 trillion relief package for the various states of these United States. Among the provisions of that package, there is what I would describe as largesse for federal employees. The average Colorado federal employee makes an annual salary of approaching $90,000 a year. It's basically $45 an hour. Normal hours in a year, normal work, etc. $45 an hour. Now, I am grateful for the work done by these federal employees. The work they do is important to us. But I want to point out that the percentage of federal employees furloughed during the pandemic approaches 0. The federal employees of Colorado and across the nation were largely unaffected by the pandemic. And yet this bill that has been signed at the federal level offers $21,000 per federal employee for the following. If their child is either unable to attend school in person because it's closed, or because it has made the virtual option available to parents. Now, we in this body, in one of our committees this week, considered a bill, Senate Bill 37, that would have given to parents of significantly less means than $45 an hour or $90,000 a year or ongoing federal employment a small stipend to help them manage the education of their child in the way that they saw best fitting of that child in this time of challenge, to perhaps catch up a little bit. We asked for state share, which in simple terms is between $4,000 and $5,000. I am disappointed that in fact we are not seeking to reach out and help those individuals who clearly were perhaps furloughed or otherwise negatively impacted by the pandemic. So I leave it to you, this question. Have we, in fact, lost our way in a meaningful way? Have we disconnected from serving the people of Colorado in a way that would best benefit them? Mr. President, I appreciate this opportunity for what is clearly a moment of personal privilege. Thank you, Mr. President.
Signing of bills.
March 12th, the President assigned Senate Bill 53, 55, and 83.
Introduction of bills.
Senate Bill 182 by Senator Buckner and Representative Harrod concerning discipline and in connection therewith addressing disproportionate disciplinary practices and chronic absenteeism and supporting students at risk of dropping out of school.
Education.
House Bill 1008 by Representatives Art and Caitlin and Senators Cook and Hansen concerning purchased options for financing forest health projects and in connection therewith financing wildlife mitigation treatments.
Agriculture and Natural Resources.
House Bill 1018 by Representative Bennett and Van Bieber and Senators Hawkins Lewis concerning allowing adoptive patients who are parties to adoption administration agreements to pay for medical services that would otherwise be reimbursable under the Medicare Assistance Program.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 1137 by Representative Weisman and Van Winkle and Senators Lee and Gardner concerning notification by legislative staff to members of the General Assembly regarding bills adopted as a result of legislation.
State Veterans and Military Affairs. State Veterans and Military Affairs. Announcements. Senator Buckner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am asking to be excused Tuesday morning for a doctor's appointment. And I will return in the afternoon for my committees.
The good senator from Aurora will be excused for Tuesday. Further announcements.
Thank you.
Senator Phillips.
Good morning, Mr. President and colleagues. I have an announcement to make. I'm requesting to be excused on Monday in the afternoon and then returning back to the body on the floor on the 18th of March due to a family emergency out of town. And I have talked to the minority leader and the majority leader about my unavailability and absence.
The good senator from Arapahoe County will be excused Monday through March 18th.
Thank you.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, thanks for your work this morning. It was tough, but we eventually got the hang of it. You know, the front desk staff really are amazing, and they always make sure I'm prepared. And there's an important announcement here that they wanted to, sometimes they write out the announcements so I can not forget them and read them word for word. So I'm going to read this one word for word, just, I don't want to mess it up. So it says, make a weather announcement again, like you did the past 2 days, and let the members know if there's a late start or closure, they will be notified. Sorry, I was too tired to write this one out. You got this. I believe in you. I think what that means is that if the snow is real and there's a big, big storm and it's difficult for people to come in, we will be sending out notifications, hopefully Sunday evening, but just stay connected to your phones if possible, and we'll get the message out as soon as there is a decision on if we're doing a late start or a snow day or anything like that, but we'll be in touch about it. Mr. President, I think we are done, God willing, this week, and I move that the Senate adjourn until 10 a.m. Monday, March 15th, 2021.
Members and staff, thank you for your work and be safe traveling. You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. The Senate will stand in adjournment until 10:00 hours on Monday, March 15th, 2021.